So here we are at a business networking event at Prudential Stadium, and watching the Devils game. And I had the opportunity to network and be with a number of business associates, some I knew and some I didn't. And I meet this mild-mannered gentleman named Doug Brown, and we immediately, we made a connection. I liked the guy. He was credible right from the get-go. And I felt a certain comfort level where I could share things with him about my business, about my organization, well before I got to know him even better. The Chamber was going through the early stages of a strategic planning process. I felt like I needed a facilitator. I needed someone that was going to help me get the board engaged, because there are things that needed to be said to members of my board that was better said by a third party in this particular process as opposed to myself as the CEO. And as I got to know Doug and how good he was in this particular role through Paradigm Associates and all the work that Paradigm has done with clients like that, I immediately asked him to consider helping me and my organization, and is that something he wanted to do? And we did very successfully.
When we first started working together, it was an interesting process. It was very two-way. It wasn't that Doug came in and said, okay, this is what you're going to do. It was a lot of exploration, understanding who we were and who we were going to be. But we knew when we opened this full facility Y that we would be employing twice the number of people, and that our leadership had to be reorganized. And then we also needed to figure out how we were going to get from the way we were to what we needed to be. And that we needed help with, and that's why we reached out to Doug.
In the outline of our strategic planning process, Doug presented us and myself with a framework to what our strategic planning was going to be like. And that initial framework began with exercises in not only our mission and vision, but also what did success look like down the road? At the end of this strategic business plan, what did success look like? That was important. That's something I was familiar with. What I wasn't familiar with was the next exercise was, okay, let's take a look at the tactics that we would use to achieve that success, and then let's think through the obstacles. Now, that's not something I had ever really done before.
We were very much using in the past best practices by YUSA and just kind of making ourselves fit into that. And we knew that this was not going to be a Y like any other Y. So we knew that we had to look at it differently, and Doug helped us to do that. And then the transition from today or yesterday to today, you couldn't just all of a sudden the next day wake up and be the new organization. You had to grow to that.
So during the dialogue and discussions of the strategic planning process, we uncovered that there were many elements of our board governance and board structure that really needed to be looked at. We potentially were not going to be able to achieve the success that we had envisioned in the visioning part of our strategic planning unless we did make some of those changes. So initially, our board came to say, listen, let's take a look at that. Go back and work with Doug and really think through what this organizational structure would look like from a day-to-day operation standpoint. So Doug and I proceeded to take a look at the way myself and my management team and staff function on a day-to-day basis. What are the roadblocks that would prevent us from working, or constricting bylaws that prevent us from doing our job, and then how could we construct a framework that would allow the board to have good governance and transparency over the organization, at the same time allow the management team and the staff to function efficiently. And that was a product that came from this process as well. So the beauty of using a facilitator like Doug in this particular process is he was able to bring out and with real clarity why we needed to think about the organizational structure, the formation, and why those elements were going to be important to the success. And I don't know that I would have been able to articulate that to the board and for them to get that, because there was a direct engagement between myself and Doug, and then Doug and the board, and that three-way conversation really led to great decision making.